All right. Hi, Stanley. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah. So, we were just talking earlier, and I said, part of the reasons why I needed to have this conversation with you was because of I looked at your career path so far on LinkedIn. I was like, this is someone that definitely wants to learn more about, how he did it and how he came to this point that he has gotten this fellowship achievement. But first up, let's just try to let's just try to get to know you first.
Awesome. I think hi everyone. My name is Stanley Anigbogu. I am from Anambra State, Nigeria. So I'm currently studying entrepreneurial leadership. Um, but I'm a product designer and a creative technologist, founder of Lighted, which is a renewable energy startup or an organization. What we do is recycle different types of waste materials to find how to convert them into renewable energy solutions, focusing on it could be plastic waste, electronic waste, or even metal waste. And we're trying to see how possibly we could convert those different materials into solutions like lamps or local charging stations for communities and so many other things.
Interesting. And well, okay, let me introduce myself also. So my name is Hope Lekwa. I'm the head of research and communications at SustyVibes. SustyVibes is a youth organization that's focused on environmental sustainability or sustainability in general, really. And we have our focuses on climate change and mental health. Climate change, of course, on its own. Women empowerment, and also empowering within in diverse ways, really. And so pretty much my focus in SustyLife is pretty much just for the research, aspect really. So I've done quite a number of, or just a few papers rather, in climate change and mental health space with Welcome and most recently with Welcome and also research in West Africa, in 5 West African cities on the impact of climate change on the mental health of people in these cities. Ghana, I think it was Accra, Lagos, Banjul, Monrovia, and Freetown, those 5 cities. So I think to start off first, to just ask you why, before we go into the crux of this conversation, just ask you why um you went into e-waste because I've come close to e-waste, but I don't think I've seen a lot of them really. And even if they are really, I don't be seeing the work that are really. Because I mean, it's not as popular as the common recycling that we all know about. So like, why did you? What started that?
Mhm. So when we started, we lighted, we were not even thinking about like the planet health when it came to using e-waste per se. We wanted to solve one problem, which is access to energy. And we made our very first order of electronics from China, and it took like I think 2 months to get down. And we were like, wait, we we can't be waiting this long to yeah. But before that, I was like, I started building robots and rockets like from a very young age. I think I was 15 when I started my tech journey. And we used to like go to these scrap places where they sell secondhand electronic components that still work. Some of the projects we built when we were like back in 2016 or 2015, some of them still function to today.
Mm,
And that's because those components that are in your cell phones or laptops or TV or power banks or even your old lamps or torch that you dispose, at least 80 or 75% of them are still functional. You can still reuse them if they are not like in a very wet condition or rust condition. So what we did is we designed our products to rely on the supply of the available electronic waste that is in the market. So I think why you don't see a lot of electronic waste around the streets the same way you see plastic or nylon is because there's already a supply ecosystem that has been made around that. I will speak from where I grew up in Onitsha. Of course, in Onitsha, we have like a whole market that sells electronic components. And in those markets, they have sections where they sell secondhand electronic components. So what we did is we looked at the materials that if we wanted to get like a 20,000 units in a day, could we get those? And we checked out the boxes of quantity over quality as well and checked out quality over quantity. then looked at the materials. There's something when you're in design called the metamorphosis table. So we did that and made sure, okay, these are the components we need to build a system. Can we substitute it for something else? Can we redesign this component? It took us like almost 7, 8 months to design our first product. And we took that time and we were able to get at least 60% of our devices are like 60% of the device is made from electronic components. For example, if you go to the market, you can find DC fans, those small fans that used to be square, that you used to find in your laptop or in your CPU,
Oh
your
yeah,
systems,
yeah.
those old ones. Some of them are like in the market and you can find like 30,000, 40,000 units of them available. Some of them are packed in warehouses. And those are components that we use as well in our cooling systems for our devices. So yeah, that's how we came about e-waste. We didn't start up and we're like, we're going to solve the problem of e-waste. So
You're
yeah,
just interested pretty much.
yeah. It just like shows how a problem can create a like how a problem, because of availability of materials, created as a problem for us, and we had to solve that problem using another problem that was 16. So it's more about the creative process. It's point of inspiration per se. I would say we had luck to think about that direction, but I would also say it's experience. Experience took us towards that direction. So yeah.
As you were talking, and I'm very concerned about this our conversation. It might actually be more than an hour, but I'm going to try and make it shorter. But as you were talking, do you have a focus particularly in the things that you're trying to create, or just like you're just broad in electronics?
No, 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 not really. So we have a focus. So like I said, we are focused on renewable energy solutions. So we are not like broad. We focus on designing lighting solutions and electrification solutions. So most of our solutions are like lamps made out of recycled plastic bottles and 3D printed parts and electronic waste. So it's more of a mixture of different components, but one focus providing people access to clean and affordable energy. We are trying to break the gap of energy poverty. So yeah, I think that's our focus per se. But we connect what the work we do with different partners in education or right now we're looking in architecture, trying to see how renewable energy and sustainability and recycling can play a role in designing solutions. So yeah.
So another question that also just came to my mind as you were talking, because all of these things are I guess they had some heavy intensive, right? They're heavily cash intensive. Is that correct?
Yes, they are. They are. They are very heavy cash intensive. Yeah.
So like, how did you go about it? Because I guess, well, okay, I need to ask again. Like, were you done with education with your schooling, like university level, or you were still trying to or you just graduated, or you were still like in the uni when all this were happening? So like, how did you even get the money to just sponsor all these things?
Yeah, I think one, first of all, starting something in Nigeria it's a different journey. You can't compare yourself with someone that wants to start something in the US, of course. Okay, so I was a student, I was studying industrial engineering in Morocco at a point, which I left and I came back home. And because I wanted to like start my business, I was thinking like I wanted to be like Mark Zuckerberg then.
That's
So,
some audacity right
but
there.
yeah, yeah. It was a very so it was quite depressing at a point that when I came back, I had like backlash from my parents, of course, which is normal in every African home. Like, hey, don't you want to have something to do with your future and stuff? But I came back home with like $2,000. I think that was the amount that I had in my accounts then. And that was not a lot to start like a proper business and research and all those things. But we found a way to make it happen. Like I said, we did a lot of scrapping and scraping. But our first prototype, we used the last $200 that I had in my account. We were like broke. And
So
we
all the
used that
money
to
that
build
that
our
you came
first
back with were just testing,
we
testing,
use it for
testing.
like office space, equipments that we needed, some of the tools. And because you can't do a lot of testing, like if you're, we used to build things in my parents' backyard, but we needed an office space where we could pack most of when you're doing testing and prototyping, you have like a lot of junk that will be stacking. So I think what we did was we invested a lot towards that direction. Then what we built our first prototype with the last $200 I had. I remember I told my friends, my colleagues then, I was like, hey, if we go home, we go home. And that was the whole idea. But we did that. We used the last money we had. We got a camera guy. We implemented the solution in the community, and we were like, okay, Hail Mary, we apply for stuff and see. But then I was already in a program called Fishbowl Challenge. So luckily enough for us, we won the challenge because of the video quality and the amount of work we've put in compared to other people in the program. So, and we were able to raise first at $5,000. So that was Hail Mary. That was like what saved us, honestly. Like if we didn't win that, probably we'll still grow, but it would have taken more time,
More
of course.
challenging. Yeah.
So yeah, it was very challenging, and we got our funding. We didn't get all at once. Like we had to set milestones. I did a lot of learning and unlearning throughout that process, and we developed our product. Things became faster because you now have money. There's a difference in money and with money and without money. So we were able to like push through, and luckily enough, things started going well. Won a couple of awards from the design. So funding that we received were not even for the business we were doing. Afterwards, the funding we were raising were like around the design of the solution and the impact of the solution. So I think when everything started going up was when I won UN Scroll of Honor Award. I became the third Nigerian to ever win that award. I remember the first Nigerian was like the president of the geographical geologist, like global. It was like back in the 90s. Then the second was a governor from Benue State. So being the first and the youngest individual to ever win that award was like mind blowing for me. I didn't even know what I was even going to receive. I just got an email, someone nominated you. And I think it was one of our mentors or one of my colleagues. I don't remember specifically. But then when I got there, it was when I was in the hotel, I started browsing. I was like, this is very big. So receiving that award was like was groundbreaking for Lighted. And that was for the research we were doing in using e-waste to design solutions around renewable energy. So yeah, I think funding was not there at the beginning. Well, we found our way around. Like I think that's important for young people as well. To always find your way around. Yeah,
Mhm.
regardless.
Very, very true. And just I have another question. I have questions, but something you just said also just made me pivot into this question, which was about you mentioned the quality of the videos might have helped you. Is that correct?
Mm.
So I
No,
also
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Go
I
on, go
read on
on.
your bio a bit. You said you liked storytelling. So what's that about really?
Oh, so I used to I've not done it for a while. I used to do films, like short films per se. Um I've received quite a large amount of like awards as a filmmaker and won like some big awards as a short filmmaker per se. Not like Netflix standard, but at least short films, 3 minutes, 5 minutes films. And I think that comes from my passion as telling stories per se. So I think we incorporate that into our work. The way we tell our stories, you can watch our videos and I don't need to say a word for you to understand what's going on. So that's intentional filmmaking or intentional storyboarding or arrangement or editing of the clips itself alone. So I think that's important. Storytelling is important. How you tell your story, even in verbally, written, or visually, just like as a film or a video, is very important. And it should grow. You should not ever decline. You should not start producing high quality and tomorrow you say, oh, let's go low quality. It should be a process. Um, and the funny thing is sometimes people see our videos and like, how much did it cost you to make this? I was like, oh, there's a video recently that I recently did. I didn't use any new video. I just combined old clips that we had. But the way we combined it, it looks fresh, it looks new, it looks like I had to put in a lot of work. It probably just cost us like 40,000 naira to make that video. So but people are like that's high quality. But I'm like, yeah, it depends on how you use the content. So yeah, I do filmmaking, I do storytelling. It's a side passion of mine. Hopefully one day in the future, my dream is to like do more short films about problems around sustainability or problems around climate change or problems about other problems we've not told. But I want to tell those stories, and even if you watch our videos, you don't see kids crying about, oh, we don't have light and all those things. No, the videos are to empower them, showing people, hey, Africans can build our own solutions. Like even our lamps, they are like Lego sets, and the kids build it themselves. We
Also,
don't
you run an
actually.
empowerment, thing by the side.
So it's not an empowerment per se. So we run the solutions we have. For example, our lamps. It's like built in like it's Lego sets, like it's like scattered. The kids themselves build it together. So each kid in a workshop session, every kid sits down. We tell them we have an instructor showing them you put this here, you put that there. So they all build their lamps themselves, and that's intentional because we don't want to communicate. We don't want to make our videos when someone is coming and you share. I take your own lamp, take your own lamp, take this, take that. No, 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 no. That's the visual of what they have, what Africa is. But that's not what we want to tell. We want to share them. Hey, these kids are smart, they are brilliant, they are creative, they can do this themselves. All they need is someone to show them the way. So I think even the way we do our projects sounds a bit cinematic on its own. It has a kind of a story and a flow of how the product is designed. So yeah.
Wow. Um, so as you were talking, I could just see the connection with communicating your problems, not problems per se, but just communicating what you're really passionate about to be able to just gather more interest really, because it's one
Yeah.
thing to be doing a great and mighty thing maybe in health, but then it's not properly communicated. And I think this side interest of yours, it's a very very your focus in any e-waste and this side interest of yours in storytelling is a very good marriage that pushes your purpose even wider. To continue our conversation, you talked about doing some work in health, in education rather. So like about
Yeah.
start from education then going to health. So like how is that for you? And I'm asking this because in 2021, SustyVibes, we started this standalone project called the Eco Anxiety Africa Project, which was supposed to bring to the forefront the eco anxiety realities Africans face. And so that was SustyVibes branching into a section of health, really. And so
Mhm.
how was that for you? What made you, collaborate or do a work in this health aspect, really?
So I would put this. I think if for us to have this meeting, we need energy, of course. You need to have your battery charged in your laptop, even if NEPA disappoints you, you still need to have your laptop charged. You still need some form of energy. Even for us to have this conversation, you need to eat. Even if you have not eaten, you need to eat later in the day. Energy is around us in everything. And I think for me, it comes easy to me. I wouldn't say this like there's any hack per se. For me, it just comes easy to me. In my team, this is more of what I do. Finding a way to collaborate or connect problems towards what we are doing. For example, there are so many health facilities in Nigeria that don't have access to any energy. You've heard about women delivering babies with torch or with candle or kerosene lamps. That's a reality. So, one of the projects that we are working on the side now is trying to see how we can scale that in much more like in a way that it is intentional. And what we mean intentional is designing a specific solution for the health sector when it comes to energy access. Because energy access for someone working in a restaurant and energy access for someone working in a hospital are two entirely different things. You can't jumble them together. Energy access for a kid in a school that needs to study at night is different from a woman running a business at night. They are two different things. So trying to understand the balance between what we are doing and how we can collaborate with other people is very crucial and very important. So I think the way we are doing that is just partnerships. For example, we could have we have a project we call the Avatar Station. So it's made out of recycled container parts and different metals and stuff, but it looks really cool. Like you wouldn't even know it was made from like recycled materials. But then it's an education space where kids learn about sustainability, renewable energy, they do practicals, but we don't do the training ourselves. We work with one child Africa or even one African child. Yeah, one African child. So we work with them and they handle the educational models, they handle the training. What we do is just provide the space, the technicality that is needed when it comes to building things for the kids. So I think organizations, especially young people in Nigeria, we need to understand one thing. You cannot do it by yourself. That's true. You can't do it by yourself. So I think that's something I learned a long time ago. And I think I said I learned that from exposure. So being exposed to, for example, when I was in Morocco, you would go to a conference and you will meet people that you met in the previous conference. And you go to another conference, you meet the same set of people. The reason is because those people, they connected themselves so strongly that anytime an opportunity pops up, it drops in and they share it within themselves. So, and you see organizations collaborating, you see projects fixing themselves together to get something done. I think in Nigeria, that's rare. That's very hard. I've tried to collaborate with some organizations in Nigeria. It's difficult because of the mindset and ideology. Everybody wants to. But most of the awards and recognition I've gotten are projects that we did off of collaborations. So I think that's very important to do, to work with people and see how to strike balances between those different things. So yeah.
Yeah, I get that totally when you say it's challenging to collaborate with people because sustainability, unfortunately, you know, can many times it's a reality here in Nigeria, can many times be seen in a
Yeah.
competitive way, but not even in a healthy competitive way, but in a way that everybody wants to be the first, just wants to
True.
maintain monopoly of this sector. Whenever they mention health, is this NGO that is here or what? It's not supposed to be. So ideally, you're supposed to all collaborate because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's social work at the end of the day, right? So I really see the frustration in that in collaborating because you think to yourself, like, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm not getting any money out of this. I'm trying to help people here. And then here's someone trying to frustrate effort. And like it can be very challenging many times. And it's interesting that you mentioned the model that you talked about where, you just provide the platform and then you collaborate with people because, at SustyVibes as well, we collaborated with MDoc for a MDoc and Tekla for a training session for mental health. That was a TIP, Dear Anxiety Africa project. You know, we collaborated with them for a training for mental health professionals. And you would think that it's because SustyVibes is such an NGO, like people wouldn't, you know, come there and just learn from the session, but it was really impactful. More so, not just because of SustyVibes, hosting, but because of the collaboration that's happened. MDoc Tekla and SustyVibes coming together to create a training
Mm.
platform for mental health professionals, all of which was still going to, at the end of the day, benefit the people or the patients that were going to be administered to by these doctors or by these
Yeah.
mental health professionals. So really is I really understand, and we need more of that collaboration in this sustainability in any social work really. So
Yeah.
a lot to talk about. So before we go into your achievement you just recently shared on LinkedIn with your community, um, how do you see the e-waste or okay, we can narrow it down to e-waste, but how do you see the waste management, sector in Nigeria? Like how do you see it? Objectively, of course.
So yeah. So for me, I think I'll be honest when it comes to okay, because I get that when people hear the work we do, they often think about what the resources we use, which is waste. The truth is we are more focused on the energy part than the waste recycling. the waste recycling just came in for us as, oh wow, this is an opportunity. You get, and the reason why we do this is we avoid to put ourselves in multiple boxes. We want to stay where we are, but be able to expand threads that connects us to multiple boxes. That's a different ideology. But yeah, when it comes to the waste management sector in Nigeria per se, for our own sector, which is like the materials we use, which is the e-waste that we use, there's already pre-existed structure that was set because people already recognize that electronic waste has value. So that is why I say we are so lucky. If there was no chain or no structure or ecosystem existing before we started, it would have been very difficult to even start for us because we then have to create a supply chain that will provide us with the materials that we need, which will be entirely difficult to manage. But I think when it comes to recycling per se, or upcycling, or remanufacturing per se in Nigeria for waste materials, I would say Nigerians are like very the growth of startups that are recycling materials now are very amazing. I think there's this one lady I know that recycles these different materials, tires, into pavements and tiles. And that's like really brilliant. And when I saw her, the facility she had, I was like, oh wow, this is in Nigeria. And I think things like people starting things like that create this chain reaction. You see another young person using same tiles to start making shoe soles, for example. And you probably see another person trying to use it to make maybe chairs or decks or tables. So I think there's this chain reaction that would occur. But I think from the beginning of time, I think Nigerians always knew the value of waste. You know people that are already collecting plastic bottles in streets and they're selling it at second value. So I think that ecosystem already existed. But now what happens to those materials? We need to have more organizations, more startups, more companies that are willing to use those waste materials to design solutions. What will happen then is the high demand for those waste materials will drastically decrease the amount of waste we see, and also at the same time, probably create other startups that would find smarter ways to collect those waste materials before it gets to the streets or it gets to the wasteland. So I think that chain reaction, I can already see it happening. It just needs more incentives, more funding, more networking, more partnerships for it to happen within Nigeria. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of sustainability. It's not just one side that's
Yeah.
affected, connects to every other sector really. So that's, like I said, the beauty of sustainability. So going to your achievement, what was first of all, can I ask you how you got it?
Hmm.
You know, the path and your should I say experience per se, but like how you got it, your reaction when you got it, and then your plans when you then start
Hmm.
different.
I think I first of all I applied last year,
So for
and
people that don't know what you're talking about, you could just start off with the
yeah, okay, yeah, we're talking about the 776 Young Climate Prize, fellowship per se, not prize, fellowship. So it's this program where you get funding from the 776 Foundation, which the co-founder is Alexis Onea, he's the co-founder of Reddit. So you get funding of $100,000, which is split across 2 years per se, and you're able to use that funding to grow whatever you're doing around the climate space. And the interesting fact is they don't have like any specific selection. You just have to be working on a solution that addresses climate change. So for me, I applied the 2020, I think, oh God, that 2023, yeah. And I got to the interview stage. I remember I was so excited and I was so nervous. I'm experienced when it comes to interviews. Trust me, I'm very experienced, but I was just shaking. And I remember I started just talking about ideas that I wanted to make happen. Instead of talking about what I was doing, I started talking about the things I want to do. And I think that kind of shifted. But then I remember after the interview, I was like, okay, I know I'm not going to get selected. I knew I fucked up in that. I have so much experience in interviews that I knew I was not getting selected. Like I knew. But I then remembered preparing this year. I was like, okay, we are going
So
to do a
you
lot of
applied again for it.
I reapplied again, and this year was like my last year of reapplying. If I didn't get in, I wouldn't have gotten it. Like again, because of age, I would be turning 25, so I wouldn't be eligible to apply. So the age limit is 18 to 24. So I was like, okay, we have to work on this. We have to like try again. It was not like a priority per se, but it was one of the things on our vision boards. And I remember we worked on a lot of projects because we later got into before the year we got rejected for 776, we got into Creative for Our Futures by Swarovski Foundation. And we were able to get funding from there to work on other projects that we needed to. And those other projects, like it showed our growth where we were a year and where we were. Lighted has just been existent for like, this will be our third year plus. Like we're heading 3 years plus soon. And to have been able to have done what we have done in 3 years, people always like, wow. I'm like, yes, it is a combination of the past 10 years working without having a name or a title given to anything or without even being recognized. So I think, yeah, people often see the rate of success we've had, or myself individually has had, and they often say, oh, like, wow, he's lucky. Oh, he has a cheat code. Or how did he do it? There's no code per se. It's just like time stacks and it stacks. Some people are lucky. I know people that just started yesterday and they boom, they got big things, and I'm like, that's good for you. But experience will always be there. So I remember growing. I remember that 776 they were following us on social media, and I noticed that. I was like, okay, may hopefully we get in. I applied. I did get guidance from of a friend of mine that is currently a fellow before like in the set before us, and I was like, okay, you man, what's up? How did you get in? What was your priorities in your applications? And he gave me the tips that I needed, and which more around like focus on what you're doing now and focus on how the funding will help you, where it will get you to on expanding. Okay, then I was like, sure. I did my assignment, I applied again, I got to the interview. It was easier because I've done the interview before. And luckily enough for me, the ideas that I presented to her, what I wanted to do, we have already done it. So it was more of like, oh, I see what you were saying then. You did it. I was like, yeah, we did it. So it was more of easier to communicate what we are planning for next. She already understood where we were. So I would be like, I think it's most of my friends call me the king of comeback because most of the things I get selected for, yeah, they are the things I get rejected for. Honestly, like true. 90% of the things I get selected for are things that either I was applying and I got scared and I was like, no, I'll do this next year. So yeah, I think the beauty of it is just keep trying. So far as you meet the eligibility, I think something I learned is stop applying for things you're not eligible for. So I think that's the advice I'll give every young person out there. Find a way. If there's no way, then find. There are so many other opportunities. I started figuring out there's so many opportunities out there outside Nigeria or on the internet, and there are so many networks. My advice is try and apply for programs that don't just only give money. Some other programs, you might meet somebody in that fellowship or in that program, and the person tells you, hey, I applied for this thing that I won last year. Check it out. Most of the things I win, that's how I get into it. Someone telling you, oh, check it out. Have you seen this? Even your Instagram. For me, if you're scrolling through my Instagram, if you scroll 10 times, you're going to see posts on design, application opportunities, sustainability, impact, and maybe comedy. So there's a balance between that. Which makes it whenever I'm scrolling on Instagram, I know for sure I'm probably if I scroll 50 times, I will find something. So even your social media is very important. The type of content you consume helps you find opportunities now. It's easier to find opportunities. So for me, I follow a lot of organizations. I follow a lot of them. I like a lot of their content intentionally. Always, even right now, I'm even having my phone is beside me. I know they can hear me talking about opportunities, so they would probably show it to me across.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
that's
algorithm.
more of it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Yeah, so
use the
just
advantage.
what?
I say use the algorithm to your advantage.
Exactly,
That's it.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
You talked about rejections, really, and you
Yeah.
know, this is something like quite a number of young people really find it hard to deal with, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so like, have you? I'm sure, okay, yeah, of course you had, because you also say you came
Mm-hmm.
back when you many of them, but like, have you received some kind of rejection where it's just like, boy, okay, I'm going to relax for about a month or 2 months now?
Um, so I don't think I'm that type of person. I think I'm the type of person rejection emails motivate. That's weird. I'm like, whenever I see myself in this kind of superhero story per se, the down I go, that's the moment you know you have to rise. I grew up watching a lot of anime, and I remember Naruto. The more you hit him, the more he gets up stronger or stuff like that. So I kind of incorporated that into my mindset from a very young age. So it helps. Some, don't get me wrong, some rejection emails are very painful. Like they are very takes you a moment to
Recoup and come
rebreathe.
back.
But then, yeah, if I have a deadline that's very important that night and I saw that other rejection email, I will go for that other application in much more detail. I'll be like, okay, this is what I noticed that I've been doing wrong. This is how I think I should improve. And reject applications are more of like try your luck per se. Get me, luck plays a role. I've been a jury for a lot of big awards, a lot of big opportunities as well. I've been a jury. I think my jury experience helps me as well. Most of the applications we review, most of the times, you probably didn't get selected because of your geographical location. Maybe there was another Nigerian in that category that was way better than you. And they will be like, oh, let's take the other Nigerian. We already have three Nigerians here. Yeah, exactly.
And you
So it
lose more of that.
happens.
So like, just continue dropping all those nuggets down there.
Yeah, so sometimes I think it's important for you to know that it might not be your time, but that shouldn't stop you from trying. Don't take a break when you need to rest. Like me, for example, when I like right now, if I'm done with this meeting, I finish cooking, I probably play video game and chill. Then I have a deadline next tomorrow. I'll probably do it tomorrow. Stuff like that. You take your time. You're able to find out there's no balance per se, but you swing. You swing to where you're needed the most. If you're not needed at urgency, don't swing. Just chill on that corner. When it's almost there, swing back. So it depends. Everyone has different
But
philosophy. Or
you
yeah, go on.
sound you sound like the kind that waits till, an hour like for the 11th hour and
No,
then just start
no,
putting
no,
it.
no, no. Not really, not really. So sometimes I'm in this Zoom mood, like I'm in the mood to do work. And I sit down and I would probably finish all the deadlines I have for the next 2 weeks in one sitting, probably take 5, 6 hours and drain myself. Then I'll probably crash and sleep and wake up tomorrow. Then look at my calendar. I'm like, oh, I only have this meeting, I only have that meeting, I only have school, or I only have this. So I think it's up. Then sometimes you find yourself that you have a lot of work, then you have 9 minute deadlines. Then there are also some applications that need more time than the others. So it varies. Then I'm not more of like 9 minutes person. I don't actually like 9 minutes sometimes because that's when, well, funny enough, I would say this, most of my applications I got selected in back in 2022 per se were 9 minute applications, but I stopped that 2023 and this year. I decided to, okay, at least 2 days before the deadline because sometimes their platform goes down
Or the date actually, yeah.
or the date or they might have reached capacity. So depends. Sometimes you apply for something on the deadline day and you submit rubbish and you find out they extended the deadline later on. So I think
Yeah.
some of these things are like, yeah, like I say, luck. I would say this luck. If you believe in God, yeah, I believe in God. Luck and Jesus is the two of them. They are very important in whatever you're doing. For me, I think when you apply for these things, you just put in your best. Like this year, I got into some like a very big award. I got to the finals and I didn't get selected as the winner. And I was like, hmm, okay, we'll try in the next 2 years. Then I'm sure the organizers know me. But then what the me that they know was the me from last 2 years. So when they see me again and they'll be like, wow, this guy has really pushed beyond what we thought he could do. And like I said, that goes back to me being a very huge character when it comes to my own story. I want to be sure that what I did last year, when you see my last year and see my this year, you'll be like, oh wow, that growth is visible there.
So, yeah.
So yeah,
So,
luck plays a role, but hard work also. Hard work and smart work. Hard work, smart work. The truth is it takes everything to succeed. So why don't you just give it everything? And if you don't succeed, you go again. You keep on going until you can't go again. And what the only thing that can stop you is eligibility. If you're not eligible, then that could be the only reason to stop you. Apart from that, I did face imposter syndromes for some applications. There are some things I got selected into yet to be announced. I can't say them yet. So there are some things I got into. Last year, I was like, oh, I'm not, these people select big organizations. I'm not yet qualified for this. And I remember a friend of mine told me, yo, try. You have the ability to be big as well. So why don't you try? Maybe they would see that. And I tried and I was like, wow, I did get in. But last year, I remember seeing my application and I left it halfway because I was worried I would waste this amount of energy and not get selected. So I think a lot of young people face that as well. I think everyone does.
yeah.
I think we're in a country where our government doesn't really have like funds to support sustainable development projects for young people. So we have to find those opportunities. I'm not from a rich family or anything. You still have to push your limits and find those opportunities. So yeah.
Yeah, and so let me ask, we are already rounding off, but just to ask,
Yeah.
so you do all this with school?
Yes, I do all this with
So
school.
how do you
Yeah.
balance the time and all?
So luckily for me, the type of school I am in is different. So I'm studying at the African Leadership University, ALU. So our study is quite different. So it's more of an entrepreneurial school per se, and we don't. It's hybrid. So you can go to school physically or you can study online. So for me, I tend to hybrid more, like study online. So it allows me to travel. Sometimes I go back to Nigeria, I stay 2, 3 months and we're working on projects. So it depends. So, but for me, I think what I'm studying now allows me to have some sense of I'll put some sense. I'll quote it. It is difficult because you still have to do deliverables, you still have to do assignments, you still have to do quizzes, you still have to submit your final exams. We don't take exams, so we do a lot of research papers, a lot of we call it summatives, we call it formatives. We have different types of things. We have quizzes, we have group works. So it takes a lot of energy as well. So like I said, I think life is more of it's people always say find the balance. There's no balance. This life doesn't have balance. You just have to swing and go where you're needed the most and swing back. If you're needed at the center, you find time for your family, find time for yourself, find time for people around you, find time for work. So it's more about prioritizing. So yeah.
Yeah, and just as we round off, two things to ask.
Hmm.
How did you was Rhoda, how is collaboration and networking for you? Because I reckon you've been to a lot of, conventions or
Hmm.
meetings and all that. How has that helped you so far? And finally, my last question is going to be any advice you'd like to just put out there and also your future goals, if you can mention them.
Yeah. So I think for networking, I do what you call intentional networking. I don't really network a lot when I go to events. I actually just stay on my corner if it's depending on the type of event. So let's say if I go for an award event and I hear people announcing like the people that won the awards, I listen to what those people are working on. And if I see anyone that piques my interest, I'm like, hey, what's up? Or if we're like having like cocktails and people are standing around and someone like, hey, I heard about your work. So I prefer people coming to me and telling me, oh, I heard about your project. I'm actually working on this. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then I look for the intersections per se.
Mhm.
I don't per se collect cards going around. I think it's a burst of energy. You just pour out a lot of energy, and at the end of the day, you come back home, you probably don't even remember any of them. I know a lot of people that go to events and you collect business cards. Jesus Christ, you pack business cards. At the end of the day, you not use any of them. You not contact any of those people. Networking for some people is like has this reward effect that oh you're networking, and in your mind your brain is telling you you're doing work when you're not actually having any output. So for me, I intentionally have this rule. I only network with like 5 people. Then in that 5 people, I only pay attention to what they are doing. Follow them on social media. Some people might be at a different level where you are not there, but you can still maintain some kind of leveling by looking at them.
Mhm.
When you get up to a level where you think you can actually collaborate with these people, or you have projects that you contact them. So networking is like a long game. It's not something you just meet someone and you think you instantly have to work with the person. Mm-mm. There are some people I have in my network. I've known them for 3 years. I only used to see their WhatsApp stories, see their Instagram, see the work they are doing. We've never collaborated, we've never spoken about collaboration, but then a project pops up that connects to what they are doing. Then I put on a call. Can we schedule a meeting? Then we start discussing. Sometimes it will work out, sometimes it will not work out. That's the balance of these things. For me, collaborating deals with what our goals, what amount of fundings do we have, how can we connect? Is it something that relates to us? How do we as an organization benefit from the transaction for of the project? How do they benefit? So why you have to think about this is when you're pitching the idea to them, you tell them this will help you in your goals in this way. That's the way you're able to like steward or convince someone you want to collaborate with. Then I think my advice for young people is be very intentional about whatever you're doing. Oh, I would say any organization you're about to start is like you entering into a community that people are saying it gets flooded every 2 minutes. And that's the reality of being a champion of change. You have to wear your strongest boots. You don't go half prepared. If not, your organization will die after 2 years, or even some of them don't even last up to 6 months. They just do one project, take the pictures, and it's over. For some people, it takes more time to build. What I would say is don't pay attention to achievements per se or travel. I think for me, when I started, it was not about traveling. Trust me. It was me just doing what I was doing. And I was looking for money. It was money I was looking for, honestly. Money that will help us grow and help us bring out our ideas. The truth. But then travel comes in as well. This year, I've only traveled twice, back to Nigeria and to Kenya to renew passports. I've not traveled to any country outside Nigeria for a while now, and I will be doing that next month in September. But the reason why is because I intentionally said I need to rest. Traveling takes a lot of energy. So don't even think that is the cream of the work you're doing. No. At the time you get tired of it. Of course, some people will say, let me start, then I'll get tired of it. It's important to not focus on that. I've met a lot of young people message me like, hey, how do you get all these funded trips? I want to start a project so I can get funded trips. I ignore them immediately. I'm like, bye-bye. If funded trips or funding is your priority, and I know why I'm giving this advice in the Nigerian context, because I know majority of people that will see this content will be Nigerians.
Yeah.
Don't focus on that. Focus on the work you want to do and the dream you have. For me, I had a big dream, and my dream is still growing. We do all these things. Sometimes you wake up, some days you to fill application is draining, trust me. Some days you're filling the application, you're like, do I have to continue doing this? And you remember that your father doesn't have $100 million dollars in the village, then you have to continue working hard to raise those funds. But the truth is, it doesn't get easier. It gets harder the moment you keep climbing. People think, oh, if we raise 100K, our work is like stress will reduce. if you want to really grow in the space, you have to keep putting in the work. Um, and I think one of the advice I want to give to young Nigerians, this will be the final take, is I think this is an opportunity for me to say this out loud. Please stop collecting funds and not doing any work. It's very
Mm.
important to collect funds and do work. It's important because even now, we're having bad names for Nigerians out there because sometimes I've been in a jury and they'll be like, oh, this Nigerian that we had this year didn't do much with. And I was like, and someone said, Stanley's a Nigerian, but he does the work. It's like, exactly. So please, because if I'm a jury and I'm on a board and I see a Nigerian and I'm like, I abstain immediately because I'm like, I don't want to even, because I know if I start looking deep, I might even figure out, oh, this person is not. So I always abstain from Nigerian applications. That's the truth. And the reason is because apart from wanting to be biased, I think a lot of young Nigerians have seen the applications, even if I don't jury. So far as I read through it, I always see a lot of them are not doing anything. They just take pictures, or they some people even collect pictures from other organizations' work and post and
Wow.
say some people will volunteer and put there and say, hey, this is my project. So I would advise this. This is advice. I think this is the first time I'll give this type of advice to every young Nigerian out there. Do the work. The reward will come. It only takes 5 years for you to become successful. Trust me. Anything you're doing within 5 years, so far as you're doing it consistently, within 5 years, you yourself will be tired of congratulations email. You'll be like, ah, I got another one. Oh, I got another one. Ah, is it this guys? Thank you so much. So it happens. When I started, I think that's what happened. Most of the money we are using, I used to carry block, I used to carry wood, I used to do printing press to get money for building some of our projects. So then I was not even thinking about the recognition, about funding that I raised. I was just thinking about how can I actually be unique in this world that we are all in a ball of screams? How can my own voice be different? So think of it that way, then do the work. And for me, I'm proud of any Nigerian out there that is really doing amazing. Like, for example, SustyVibes, you guys are really doing amazing as well. So I think every young Nigerian, every Nigerian that is doing work in any way, just keep on going on, keep doing you, and the world will one day hear your voice. That's the truth. So yeah,
Yeah, I think to add to that finally, is also the power of volunteerism. You know,
yeah,
that's really how lots of us get to grow in this space that we are in. Because you get to learn a lot from people
true.
who have done the work and then are back here to grow. So like there's really a lot of potential in putting down time and learning from people really. And that's what needs to be emphasized also alongside the things that you just said. So just
Yeah. Can I
emphasizing.
add some?
Yeah, sure, sure.
When I was in Morocco as a student, I was volunteering for three different organizations.
Mm.
Like, I was working with different organizations, going to villages in Morocco, doing projects. So I think, yeah, I think that's a very important element. Most of the things I learned were through volunteering. Most of the early opportunities I got were through volunteering. So I 100% agree with you. If you don't know where to start, volunteer.
Yeah,
You will figure out where you start. Yeah, that's
it's
true.
pretty much the easiest way to learn in this space. You know, to
Yeah.
learn for free actually. You know, volunteering
Yeah,
really. Okay, thank you so
true.
much, Stanley. It's been I've learned a lot, and I'm so happy this is recorded so you can even watch it over and over again. The experiences and the insights you shared are they are gold, really, and I really
Thank
appreciate that. I just want to shake your hand now, if it's possible, to just say thank you for
We can give a high five. We can give a
yeah,
high five.
yeah. So just to say thank you for your time. I understand that you're
Awesome.
very busy,
Yeah.
you know, so I just really appreciate it. And also wish you many more successes and great more works in this field that you're in. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Stanley.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me as well.
You're
All right
welcome.
then. All right.